Hello, and welcome back to Minecraft Through the Ages, my series where I've been updating a single world through every version of Minecraft ever released, in order and covering all the changes made along the way to both my world and the game. We started today's video by updating our world version, so what are the new changes in this episode? Well, only the slightly impactful addition of colorful blocks of many kinds for the very first time in Minecraft Through the Ages history. Welcome to Classic Minecraft 0.0.20a_01. As always, some of these versions are lost, so the _01 release is the oldest we have. This is the update that added 16 colors of wool, 2 flowers, 2 mushrooms, and a 17th full new gold block. On top of that, the last update removed our access to cobblestone and sand, but those blocks are now back in our repertoire as well. To say that these are all welcome changes to the game is such an unbelievable understatement, so let's go through everything that was changed in depth right away. Let's start with the biggest change for me specifically in this update. Notch inverted the scroll! I'm kidding, not that that hasn't happened, the scroll is actually back to normal now, but that's obviously not the biggest change in this update, as that is the wool. This headline feature in 0.20a of colored cloth blocks, as they're referred to at the time by Notch and in the code, would not be possible if not for the true best feature of this update though, an inventory. An actually good, permanent solution to choosing what block you're placing has been an aspect of the game that, to this point, has ebbed and flowed in its quality, but Notch had finally come up with something pretty slick in this update. The numbered list at the very beginning was okay, and the hotbar's ability to have an entire selection visualized on screen was nice, but limited. Now in this update, the game has an entirely new inventory accessible by pressing the B key. It features every block added into the game up until this point that we've had access to, and by clicking on any of them, it will put that block into the selected hotbar slot. This is to say that you're only allowed to have one of each item in every slot. Now, when I said that we get access to everything that we had access to up until this point, I'm putting a fair amount of emphasis on the things we had before part, as despite the liquids of water and lava, the ores of gold, iron and coal, and bedrock all being able to be placed with external modification of the game client perfectly fine, we still aren't able to access any of them yet in the vanilla game. It's also important to note now that I've mentioned bedrock, that it's not entirely true to say that it's inaccessible anymore. Even though it, like the ores, isn't featured in the new inventory screen, this is actually the first update where you can legitimately place bedrock. As I said earlier, using mods or external tools, it was first possible to both see and place the block form of bedrock all the way back in 12a, where it just acted as any other block. Now that it's actually accessible though, bedrock has been given a new purpose as a block that's unbreakable by players that are not administrators on the server. To place bedrock, all you need is to be an administrator on the server, as any account with OP permissions had access to the /solid command, which would toggle between placing regular stone and the newly unbreakable bedrock. With this new inventory comes many new blocks, and having covered bedrock is essentially only 1 out of 19, so let's cover some of the more mundane additions first before we take a look at the world changer that is something like the new cloth. Most mundane of the bunch is probably the new gold block. It's the first block of its kind, and in a similar vein as the trivia that there were iron, coal, and gold ore way before diamonds were added, comes the fact that this very first mineral block, like the diamond and iron block, was actually this gold block way back here in update 0.20a. I have to say that I really like the texture that this block was shipped with when it was added. I don't know for sure off the top of my head what block has had the most changes over the course of Minecraft history, but I imagine gold at least takes a podium spot, so let's have a little fun and let me take you to a great segment that I thought up. You could say that there have been a lot of different gold block textures through the ages. Get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? So my idea was just basically that I wanted to have, I figured there was so many textures that it'd be fun to make a tier list, and so that's exactly what we're gonna do. I'm also using this as an excuse to launch my Discord, so I've had this for a while. I made it back when I had people on the MTTA world in multiplayer, but I think it'd be fun to open up just for people who want to send screenshots or ask questions or, I don't know, just to keep up with people. I figure there's no harm in having it, even if it's not that active. So link down below, send your gold block texture tier list. These are in the order that they were added, so I'll just go through that, I guess. This was the original, like, 20a texture that they added in Classic 0.0.20a that we were looking at and building with today. I really like this texture. I think this is a really cool one. I think it's at least an A, so we'll put that there just to start with. And then this is what it's changed to. It's changed this in one of the survival tests. I believe the 26 survival test. It's added in one of the survival tests. I like it less for sure. Like, I think it's definitely a downgrade. I mean, the two-tonedness is cool, and I like that they go with that for, like, the diamond and the iron, and it's interesting. It's interesting history, but I don't really think it's that actually, like, practically good for building, and so it's not really my favorite. Maybe I'd even give it a C. And I do like this one. This is the one that's added in, I believe it's Alpha. It's like Alpha 1.2 maybe? I don't know, something. It's a pretty old version that's changed to this. And they change it very slightly in release. I'll put it up. I'll zoom in. You can determine if it's different. I'll try and like distinguish it the best I can, but very, very minor texture change, so I won't really put those that far away from each other. And then it stays the same for a very long time, all the way until the texture update 1.14. And then this, I think, was added only ever in one of the like pre-release snapshot tests with the new textures. And so I agree, it's pretty ugly. I'm glad they changed it. It looks kind of like whatever they made Emerald look like, I don't know. I don't really like this. I think this looks pretty booty hole. And this texture is not that bad. This is the one that we currently have. I do like it worse than these two. I think these two are better textures. Look more like gold-like. They look cooler. And I think that this is still the best one. I think that if you could do like a combination between these sort of four here, really these sort of three, because these are all the same, these two, I think that that'd be what would be S tier, because I still think that all of these could be better. Like, I don't think that this is like necessarily the best gold blocks ever, but I do like this list. Alright, let's try and reel this back towards at least being able to pretend this is a normal Minecraft video. We've looked at gold and bedrock, which are all things considered pretty normal blocks. It is, I'm pretty sure for this reason, that 28 also brought along with it 4 new plants. Shrubs are a block that I have simply been abusing in my builds from the time that they were added up until this point. Anywhere that I perceived as being empty was perfect for some built trees and small shrubs, and if we had statistics in the game, at this point, I think that it might be my most placed block. Either that or leaves. This is all to say that having flowers and mushrooms added to the game is something that I, as well as everyone else who was playing at that time, am hugely excited by. It's perfect for my style and how I've been building up until this point, but that doesn't mean that people in the community weren't also super excited at the time they were added as well. For some background to anyone watching who might not know, these screenshots taken from the IRC chat are from Zombuster, a really old player, C418, who obviously later went on to make the soundtrack and be hired for the game, as well as Easy, Notch's old wife, Aline Zetterstrand. There are 2 mushrooms and 2 flowers added in the update, and they inherit the exact same behavior as saplings. This is to say that on grass and dirt they persist forever, and die when unsupported or covered by another block at a higher Y position. To reiterate, the mushrooms at this time die when in darkness and can only be placed on grass or dirt. This is obviously just a mistake, with that being highlighted at this interaction in the IRC chat. Video Game Programmer asked, why do the shrooms die in the darkness? With Notch responding, Video Game Programmer, good question. The mushrooms have 2 different textures. A brown mushroom, likely emulating something like a portobello or some other cooking mushroom in real life, and another red mushroom with white spots. My guess is that the latter is Minecraft's attempt at a fly agaric mushroom, a poisonous and/or psychoactive mushroom found all across the world. These mushrooms, while not as immediately awesome as something like the flowers, are still a great addition, and with them being non-solid decorative blocks, something that we will definitely take more of and be using lots of. Speaking of which, yeah, let's talk about those flowers. This was pretty instantly seen as a good idea for hopefully obvious reasons, as the decorative potential in gardens and outdoor builds suddenly increased tenfold. While we're at it, since we did so for the mushrooms, let's look at what we think these flowers are and what their textures look like in a little more detail. This really isn't a cut and dry question, as if we're pretending that we really are playing this update June 20th of 2009, we seriously wouldn't know what flowers the 2 were supposed to be that were added in the most recent update. In the game's code, they're only ever referred to plainly as plant yellow and plant red, and in the IRC chat, Notch only refers to the flowers as a collective. So let's take a closer look. I'll go out and say, obviously, if there's any plant taxonomists out there in the audience watching, feel free to give your input, as anyone's opinion would arguably be put into higher regard than mine, but here's what my guesses are. Obviously, history will tell us that the yellow one looks like a dandelion, but here are some of my suggestions of what I think that the yellow flower could look like. I raise you my chrysanthemum, this yellow one specifically, the golden trumpet or Alamanda cathartica, or even a yellow coneflower or a black-eyed Susan. These all fit relatively well because of the lack of any other real distinct trait than its yellowness. The red flower, on the other hand, though, has visible thorns, leading us to really only, as I see it, two options. Of course, there's the tried and true red rose, or my new challenger in the ring, the crown of thorns. I mean, hey, I'm just saying, it looks pretty similar. At this point, it almost feels like I've been dodging the most obvious change, so let's finally talk about the elephant in the room. The addition of cloth. Yes, cloth. If you're a real Minecraft fun fact knower, you would probably know that the names of sunblocks and items have changed after they were added. Changing workbench into crafting table is probably the one you have the highest chance of knowing, but it's far from the only changed name. At this point in the game, there is no text accompanying anything other than the menu, and thus the people playing the game colloquially came up with the names. This is where names like Adminium came from, as without being told that that block was bedrock, you would really have no idea what it was. In the IRC, people were just calling these new blocks that would eventually become, well, the colored blocks, but the code indicated their actual name as well as their color. This is interesting not only because we see what the official names of the colors were chosen by Notch back in 2009, but also because the selection of colors is pretty different. The same as modern, we have red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, purple, magenta, gray, dark gray, and white. Now, I said the same as in modern, but while they are identical in name, the textures aren't exactly shared one-to-one between versions, with some being more different than others. As well, on top of that, there are 6 new colors who are ultimately never carried over into the modern versions of the game. Chartreuse, Spring Green, Capri, Ultramarine, Violet, and Rose Cloth was all added in this update as well, giving the classic version a very different, specific block palette. When people talk about playing these old versions of Minecraft, they often do so just from the lens of nostalgia, but different versions of the game have very different game feels. As an example, one would play beta Minecraft much different than even release 1.13, and obviously Classic is no different. Even within Classic versions there are separations, but the large defining difference, in my opinion, is that difference of building palette that Wool creates. To reiterate that in a more concise manner, the cloth in Classic having a different palette of colors lends itself to incredibly unique builds, and ideas that only could really be made in these versions. And that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. My first idea was to simply spruce up already existing builds. I always knew in building in the world that color was on the horizon, so I had come up with certain ideas that I can finally now act on, probably a year later after planning them. I remember coming up with the idea of putting posters on this wall when I first built it, and having some more color around generally is something I tried to accomplish as a whole. My next big idea was to build a carnival. I thought that was a great idea considering our newly colorful and fun-filled palette, so that development is what you're seeing on screen here, with a bit of a Ferris wheel and Gatorland combo being what I ended up with. After that, I built some more in our classic city that we started way back in episode 5, as well as establish another quote-unquote city that I'm going to tour here in just a second. Other than that, my biggest undertaking was converting this huge portion of our 11A world into sand, making a faux desert. I wanted to make the terrain more exciting, despite not having any big plans for developments down on the layer beneath the city with the sand pyramid, and so desert's what I settled on. I really liked the idea of the big goofy cacti, and glad I'm followed through with the plans to build them everywhere. Keeping the exact terrain was also a nice touch, since it didn't generate originally with the trees in the first place, and really made the idea that much more worth doing in my opinion. That was a good overview of the smaller stuff that I did, but I think it's time that we finally tour the other, bigger, better, more feature-complete builds that I made over the course of the 40 hours I spent playing these two versions combined. I'm currently standing looking just at these pyramids that I built way back in I think like 11A. And I'm standing over here just so I can show you sort of in relation to the world where everything is. This is where my new development is that I'm going to be touring. And for the record, I've been having some memory problems. That's why the render distance is like it is. I've been crashing whenever I have it just rendering the full world. I've narrowed it down to being some problem with my memory. I had some huge computer crash and like my system files corrupted, and there was lots. I posted about it on my community tab, but I'm still feeling the lingering effects. So for this little tour, we're gonna have to be on a slightly foggier render distance, but I think that's okay. I want to tour this area because this was entirely developed over the course of this episode. When I first came here, before I updated to 20A, it was just an empty grass world with no trees, no nothing. And so I've fully transformed it. As I said earlier in the episode you just saw, I talked about how I transformed this all while keeping the original terrain, which I really liked. And I've sort of tried to do a similar thing over here, but it's really going to end up being flattened out because my idea was to have a more sort of modern area. I don't really have an area in my world, at least I didn't think I did, where I could really use colors to the best of their ability, I guess. Like, I really wanted to build a bunch of cars and stuff, and so I started with this road, and it sort of just expanded its way out. So I'll cover the museum there that I've built, and then we'll look at the gas station and mansion. Quite happy also, just before I go inside anything, with these lamppost designs and street lights and everything. It's actually quite hard to come up with something that makes sense at this sort of thick of a scale. Like, really the only blocks that we have to work with are full blocks. And so I don't know, all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how this is turned out. And this is my sort of modern art museum. I'll give it a bit of a walk around outside before we take a step inside. I thought that, you know, no better use for color than to build something really big and colorful. And I thought that having sort of like a more modern style would fit. And I don't know, big blocky colors was sort of the inspiration here. So my idea is that eventually in InDev, when paintings get added, I'll maybe sprinkle them about in here, like have some sort of like actual, like, you know, stands where you could have like a 2x2 or a 1x2 painting, or, you know, something like that. But, you know, currently there are no paintings in the game, so I haven't actually really done a whole lot of the interior. I've got a lot of the windows, and I've got the sort of layout of the place in, but, you know, not a whole lot of actual art to be looking at. But I do really like the layout of this place. Like, this room specifically I think is really cool. You get a good look at the AWOL world through there if you look in the corner. I don't know, I really like the layout of this place. I think it'll be cool when I get to furnish it, and I really enjoyed building it. You can see it's got a nice sort of like walkway, a one-way sort of, you split off down there, or you can come up here, and then there's this sort of little viewing area where you can see the big pyramid. I'll try and get I feel like, make sure that the flashing bit isn't covering too much there. Is that good? Look, you can see the pyramid there, and sort of everything else. I don't know, I think it looks really, it's a nice view. As well as we've also got this very treacherous staircase up to this tower, which is, I believe, at build height. I think this is as tall as you can get. But you get a pretty good view of everything up here. And eventually, when we get to update, you'll be able to see, I think, even past into the, you know, the great beyond, as that's where the barrier is. Anyway, you can also go down. The staircase leads all the way down, but there is no building entrance here, you just have to leave. But that's the full building. I really like it. I like what I did with the landscaping around the place as well. I really like the sort of like solemn flowers and whatnot. And I think it serves as a nice sort of, it was a good piece of inspiration to build around, because I wanted to sort of get the one garish build out of the way before I could start building some more sort of normal looking buildings, if that makes any sense. So of course over here will be sort of more, you know, smaller houses. And then here, right next to the big art museum, I wanted to build a mansion. The idea was that this was the sort of rich area, and, you know, maybe this person financed the art museum, or maybe they're an artist themselves, or something, but I wanted to build a big house. I just thought, I missed building my mansion way back when I did that out of sand and whatnot, and I thought that I wanted to take another stab at it now that I could actually build some interiors with the new colorful wool, and so that's exactly what I did. You got the bit of a front porch here. And you can walk right in. There's a nice big TV and a nice table. I have no idea what kind of, like always in Classic, it's a very interpretive art. You know, you tell me if you think this looks good or not. I like it. I think like the shelves here and the sort of, you know, the openness of it all makes it feel like a nice sort of lived-in space. You can go from the main sort of entranceway. There's really only 3 places to go. This door goes in a big loop and comes out here. There's the upstairs as well, and then you can enter the garage from in here. In the garage I built a big orange truck, and I mean, this is in the same style. I'll just bust through here and show you. This is in the same style. Oh, I can't show you, hold on, I'll have to cut. In the same style of all the trucks and cars that I built over here originally, and I quite like them. They're in a bit of a goofy scale, you know, like you can only do so much when you don't have any slabs or any stairs or anything, but I actually do think that they are recognizably what they are. Like, I think you could tell me that this is a van, and, you know, that there's a truck, and over there is a van, and, you know, I think that everything is verifiably what it looks like, at least, so that's good. And then back in here with our, orange truck, And this is basically just like you can imagine this is like a door opening through here that you can take to enter the garage. Often people in their garages have sort of like workbenches and sort of workstations, and so that's what I wanted this to be, with like maybe some tools hanging, or some, I don't know, a tire or something, as well as there's another shelf along here, and maybe like a fridge or something. There's also storage up there. I mean, who am I to think that anyone will ever see this? Alright, and through past the garage, we'll go this way around. We can enter this sort of, I don't know, sun room. It's got a really nice floor design, and some benches around. I don't know. I have no idea what this would be, other than maybe a space where you could, have a gathering. But I do really like the room. I like this nice, really beautiful view. It doesn't look as great when you can't see the water through the transparent glass when it has the highlight. That makes it look a little bit more jank, but I do like this area. I think it's nice, and I think especially using the shadow to sort of highlight the carpet in the way that I did was cool. I think that was a really sort of nice effect. I think it makes this area really nice looking. And then of course there's some greenery and whatnot. Go up here now to the top floor, where there's a bit of a more sort of a lounge area where you can sit and watch TV, or maybe have a drink around the huge circular table. There's also a bit of a bedroom here that I had. I don't know, this was just sort of a small area that was on top and behind that sort of sunroom, and so I figured I could put a little bedroom here, as well as if you go in behind here, there's a sort of little like shelving area where you can imagine you'd maybe have some clothes hanging or something, as well as some more storage back here. And then finally on this top floor, I have no idea what would normally be in an attic, and so I've really Minecrafted up. I've put sort of plants and flowers and sort of things hanging, but mainly I like this area because it lets you actually get out onto the roof, as well as because I think that this is actually a really nice view of the art gallery right here. If you look, I think this is a really cool view, and you get a nice view of this sort of little bench area down there. I don't know. I think it's pleasant. I think that this house is a nice one. I think, always interior design is a bit of a struggle in Classic, and so, I gave it my all. I definitely like the outside probably better than I do the inside, but still, I mean, a really nice build, and I think it definitely adds to this area. It gave me a lot of inspiration for what I ended up doing next, which was this gas station over here. And I made an entire video about the process of actually building this, so you can go and watch that, but I'll still give it a wee little tour just because it's a part of this area. It's got sort of, the pumps and whatnot, along with a sort of ice machine out front, and then you can walk on in, and you can see the sort of aisles of chips, or, I don't know, phone chargers or whatever you want to buy at the gas station, as well as the till, and then you can come and sort of see the back storeroom where they've got all their, all their goodies in a little office back here as well for the manager. But this one, as I said, have a full video already building it, so I'll link that in a card, and in the description you can go watch that. Yeah, that's it for this area. I, of course, said that I built this little street here, and this is all still ongoing, of course. I've got no plans for this to be stopping anytime soon. I've got lots more in mind for this area, and so you'll see more of that in the coming episodes, but for now, that's what's been developed. I got a lot done, and I really made good use of the wool. As is pretty evident, it was a pretty big game changer. And that'll be shown even in the new builds that I make in my older areas, which is where we're headed to next. We're going to go check out in our main area where we've been doing most of our developing. I built a new sort of complex out front of the really old windmill, and so that's what we're going to tour next. And then I called it a complex because I think that's pretty fitting. This is all one big building technically, like it's all connected, but it's sort of split into smaller segments, so I'll go through it one by one. You can see just over here is where we have been building a lot of our stuff recently, and if you just follow the path up, it's a direct path from the restaurant that'll take you all the way right down here. As well as I said, it was right by, this is the original, I just extended it outwards path that goes to this really, really old, I believe it's Classic 11A windmill. I don't know. It was built in the same version as all these walls, and as when I built that sort of crane in that house and all that down there. We'll go through the tour because these all have interiors, all these buildings. So we'll start with this front building. This one is all, I imagined, a pizzeria. So you can think of these signs here as like sort of signs advertising the place. And you come in through here, and this would be where you would order. So you'd come in, and you'd, you'd make you'd see what the options are, what the pizzas of the day are. You'd talk to the cashier who was working at their, cash register right here, and you'd say, oh, how's it going? And then they'd send you off to one of these tables. So you'd stand, or maybe you'd sit, and then this would be the oven where they're, baking the pizzas that you can see coming out here. And then this is all the seating where all the different people would, either outside or inside sit and eat their pizzas. Guys, I'd be lying if I said I don't really like this build. I didn't have any ideas for the interiors actually going into the buildings. I just built the outside. But I really like what I came up for this one. And you'll see that all the rest of the ideas were not nearly as inspired. There's also an entrance to get in over here. So you can, get in both the doors. This next building here, I think this would be sort of like a good just, lobby, because it was pretty small and I didn't have a whole lot of ideas. So it just takes you straight back to a path that'll lead you right around here to where you can sort of exit and go across here. As well as the same thing is sort of represented here, where this is just a big tunnel that goes straight through into this sort of like park area back here. But in between these two areas is this place, which is a little church. You can see here. I really like this. I thought this was a cool little hole-in-the-wall church where it's got the cross and the little sort of cross. I guess actually it'd be smart if I did this. Look here. Look at that. Now we're cooking. Yeah, I think that's... Is that better? I'll probably leave this one, but I like the other side being like that. Anyways, just through here, there's another entrance to the church, as well as just a passageway. And then finally, at the very far end, there's this sort of tower, which is the tallest one, which has the sort of staircase to get up to the upper rooms. So I'll exit upper rooms. I'll show you this upstairs first, because I sort of skipped past it. Up here, I believe, is what I sort of just designated as, just like a sort of, sit-down area and lobby with lots of sort of, streamers or banners or something hanging from the roof. I don't know. You tell me what you think this is. As well as over here, there's a little bedroom, and I think under here is just sort of like storage, yeah. So you can imagine that this is sort of the penthouse suite. Maybe the person who owns the pizzeria or, something like that is living up here and has all their sort of, this is where they sit and eat, maybe. And over here is more sort of like smaller residences, as I've said it. This is just the back entrance. So you can go here and you can see... Actually, I should put glass there. Anyways, you can step up this little spiral staircase here, and you'll end up on this sort of floor with some more different residences. So you can imagine that these are sort of like smaller apartments that you'd have to, I guess, go through the other one to get into. I don't know. I like this place, though, and I really actually like the roof. I like the way that I've sort of left it all open, so you can sort of like imagine these are the support beams holding up the structure. I don't know. I really, as interpretive as all these interiors have been that I've built, I really feel like I'm getting a handle of it. The more and more that I walk around this world, the sort of cozier it feels, and the more sort of lived in I can imagine it. I think that this is going to be a nice... I needed something big in this area because this has just been such an empty field for so long. This version that I generated this terrain in had absolutely nothing except for the 2D Perlin noise, and so I sequestered off this area with the wall and have essentially left it as virgin lands since then. I've built a lot over in this area, and I think that it's mostly complete. Like every nook and cranny is full, but I sort of left this area untouched, almost just sort of because of the scale of it. It just sort of felt intimidating to start. But I think now that I've got this going, I can imagine myself a sort of better path forward. Because now I've got an actual path going through here, and I've got the exit, and I know sort of what the layout is going to be. I've got a bit of a better plan in my head. I guess I should also mention it since I only just really showed it off, but I built these large flowers out back here in this sort of gardeny area that connects out to the sort of fields of the shrubs that this windmill had originally, because these are all original. I didn't break any of these. I really like the look of these. I think that this is some of the cooler stuff that I came up with to decorate, and so I made like big versions of the sort of flowers that you see, because these are all the red flowers are all over here, and there's only the yellow flowers over here by the well, I'm calling them dandelions, but as discussed in this episode, you know, maybe it's a chrysanthemum. Who's to say? See, it's sort of crazy to me to be almost this close to being finished this area, because I started it so long ago, but we really only got sort of this square left to fill, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's conquered sometime in the near future. But anyways, that's been it. That's been the main big builds that I've done for this episode. I did a lot of research, a lot of IRC text chat reading, and I really enjoyed it. I think that now the updates are finally coming where it's not like, okay, we added, you know, wood for the first time, but it's actually like fun additions. It's things that allow you to sort of get more creative. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Oh yeah, join the Discord, I guess. It'll be linked in the description below if you want to chat about old Minecraft or, I don't know, anything really. I'll be around. Thanks for watching. Bye.